Be a busy day for Board of Election workers all across the country.
And the man in charge of Ohio's voting process is taking time to sit down with us this morning. Ohio's Secretary of State Jon Husted is here. Secretary, thank you so much for joining us today.
Glad to be with you this morning.
Talk a little bit about the early voting numbers across Ohio. Higher, lower than expected? We saw some long lines this weekend here in Hamilton County.
It was very slow starting out, but there was a rush at the end, so we ended up exceeding our record for early voting by around 11,000 voters statewide. The vote totals were down in Hamilton County, up in Butler and Warren counties, and so in all, it ended up more voters turned out to vote, and we hope that it will remain robust today.
Prior to today, there's been all kind of talk about the process itself. Some people have said there's a possibility of fraud. Others are worried about voter intimidation and these kind of things. What is it that you have seen? Is there any fraud? What constitutes voter intimidation?
Well, there's a lot of talk about it, but we've seen very little evidence of either. We will not tolerate voter intimidation. You're not allowed to come to the polls and make yourself a self-appointed observer. We allow the political parties to appoint people, but they have to follow the rules. Yeah. They can't interact with voters. They can't inject themselves into the process. Voter fraud, it exists, but it's very rare. Since I became Secretary of State, we're talking about the number of cases in the hundreds of voter fraud, but don't do it. It's a fifth-degree felony. We'll catch you, we'll prosecute you, it's not worth it. And Ohio's system of elections, I'm here to say, they're as good as they've ever been. The integrity, the way that we do things. We've removed 520,000 deceased voters from the voter rolls, 1.5 million duplicate names. We've cleaned up the voter rolls. We have checks and balances when people go in and show their ID and so forth. So people should feel confident about it.
Is there any way for anyone to get into the system, to hack in? You know, people talk about cybersecurity. Are there any concerns with that?
Well, you should know that all of our voting systems, none of them in any way are connected to the internet. 70% of all the ballots cast in Ohio will be paper ballots. Those that are on electronic machines, there's a paper trail connected to it. But your casting of your vote, not connected to the internet. The tallying of the vote, not connected to the internet. So people should feel good about the cybersecurity threats as it relates to voting.
Now, it's a patchwork across the country in terms of early voting about what's allowed when and those sorts of things. There's actually been some criticism of Ohio that some people want it to be longer. Is there any talk about making early voting a longer process?
Well, actually, it's 28 days. It's a pretty long process. Ohio has one of the most extensive voting periods. As a matter of fact, you talk about lines. No one ever has to wait in a line in Ohio. You can vote from home via mail. We send every person who wants to vote an absentee ballot request so that they can vote. Over 1 million people will cast their votes that way. And so, you know, it's easy to vote. Hard to cheat in Ohio. That's what our goal is, and that's the way it works.
Secretary of State Jon Husted, thanks for taking time to come in with us this morning.
So early.
Good luck to you and all of your workers today.
Get out there and vote. There won't be lines today at the polls. We have plenty of polling opportunities. 35,000 poll workers out there working to help deliver this election today.
Excellent. Get out and vote. All right, now we toss it over to Bob.